Here when I
I love it. I'm watching this and we're both chair dancing.
you can see me. I was like doing my nails. I was like,
I can see you down on the bottom in the backstage area. The little
okay,
boxes are down there. And so
okay.
I'm watching you and you're like in time with me.
Really,
Like we're
you
both
can't
in the
help
same
but move when
section.
you hear
It's
that
like,
music. I was
I
like,
know that's Julian's music. Hi,
okay.
spiritual hacks. Hi, hippie. Um, so welcome. Today's topic is adult child estrangement. And we're up against the Super Bowl, so I'm not expecting a lot of people to show up. But that's their loss, not ours. Hi, AZ
Yeah.
is happy. And
Hi.
anyhow, just figured I'd kind of slow down for a minute and see if anybody else shows up. Hi,
Mhm.
Joy. And boycott
Boycott
the
that game.
game.
Good with
Did
that.
he show up? Hey, Dr. Ann. We did a show together yesterday. That was a lot of
Oh,
fun.
okay.
And
Hello, Dr. Ian.
hi, Teacher Barbara.
Teacher Barbara.
And she mailed out our shirts yesterday. I think Barbara said she made me another shirt. So I'm like, cool. You know, it's a cool shirt. It's um, Felon 47, and then it says, "May the odds ever be in your favor," or however it is from 100 down.
Right. That's where we are, isn't it?
And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. The thing of it is I can't wear it out in public
May the odds ever
because I
be in
work
your
for the
favor.
state, so I can't wear stuff
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly.
If I leave the house when I wear it, I have to put something over it or change shirts.
I love that. May the odds ever be in your
Hi, Sunflower Down Under and
Yes.
Lucy.
Hi.
It's Tarot D's in the house. Hey, my darling. I saw you
Hello.
just released your
Steve.
astrological stuff. So I've
Wow.
got it all saved. I plan on watching it later. And that's on her other channel as him, as his regular self. But
I gotta write this.
um, so resist dictatorship. That's what it said. Okay. Um, but anyhow, we had over 700 views, Dr. Ann. Wow. I haven't even gone in and looked at the analytics. I have been so busy since yesterday because I was trying to get all my laundry done and everything taken care of because I knew I had two things back to back today. And so it was like, I gotta get a jump on it. I just have a handful of stuff left laying across the bed on the other side of the screen, waiting to be hung up.
Wow.
And the one item I did hang is still hanging there. So I got it on the back of the chair. I bought
I
some
did my
new
laundry today
hangers.
too.
Yeah, I bought some new hangers that are like real light velvet type stripping on it so that you don't have to worry about the shoulders falling off the the hanger. And I didn't realize it until they came in that I can turn the little hook at the top in any direction. So it's like
Wow.
I can like hang. I don't know if you can see it. I can hang like my clothes on it and hang them over the chair, and then
Oh.
when I go put them in the closet, I can turn it back sideways and put it. Hi, Patrick, and hi,
Hello,
Joy.
Patrick.
So, like I said, today's topic is adult child estrangement. And Isaac pulled up some really interesting stuff as well as some it's well, I thought it went in the garbage. As well as some videos. And I'm going to post the links for the videos in the chat, and then we'll show the one website page that he gave me. It's really interesting. I didn't realize that all that stuff that they talked about with it is what, you always think adult child estrangement. Well, somebody got pissed at somebody and stormed off, and now they're not talking to each other. But evidently, it's much more involved than that. So I'm going to let Isaac take over at this point. He's the expert with me, and then I'll just I'll be show and tell.
Well, actually, Sherry, as we were talking about it, it was interesting to me as well. I've never worked with anybody in this situation before, and I had not heard a lot about it. And the articles that we were looking over, one person said that it's not unusual, and it's like you just think well, if it's not happening to you, you don't think about it.
Yeah,
but what she was saying
exactly.
is that it's not the first choice of a person to have no contact, but and as I was reading, it was almost like, what came first, the chicken or the egg thing? Who got
How
hurt
far
first?
back does the hurt go?
Yeah, how far back does the hurt
Are these
go?
hurts that go back to childhood, or were they already an adult when the hurts happened?
Right. Yeah, right.
That's what I thought of. Was it because maybe your child picks their partner and it's someone you can't stand? I mean, God, there's just so many different avenues you can go down with that.
This is what I would say to you. When I started thinking about it, and automatically I started thinking, what would I do if someone came to me and they said that? What I would do, and I think everybody needs to do this, is to get to the bottom of it, I will go into who, what, when, and where. It feels uncomfortable, and it may not be in that exact order, but it's about what happened, who initiated it, what was going on. You ask all these questions because it comes down to a communication issue. And some people say, I'm not going to speak to you again if you keep saying this, or if you don't acknowledge that. But I think it's about getting into therapy and dealing with the issue, and then you can come together with the other person, because I don't think you need another person that's just me. I don't think you need another person to acknowledge you to get better. You can get better without another person, because you're going to carry on your life anyway. It would be nice to have somebody in your life that you cared about, and they cared about you.
Some people, rightfully so, have just cause for cutting all ties with parents. Maybe because of childhood abuses, or that kind of thing, or as an adult they cut ties with maybe an ex or something because of abuses. So there's a lot of things there, but a lot of what I think what we were looking into is what causes that split. And that's what she was talking about, the lady whose videos you sent me. That's what she was talking about in the videos. And something that I was incorrectly, one of the myths that she listed, that I was like, what did I do with it? I wrote it down somewhere. There it is. One of the myths that most people think is that it's something sudden. All of a sudden, there's just it cut off. Nobody talks to nobody. And she talked about, well, no, this is something that gradually builds up over time until one day the straw that broke the camel's back hits, and you're like, I'm walking away.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
she also talked about when reconciliation happens,
Mhm.
it does not mean that everyone goes back to normal, because
Mhm.
obviously it wasn't normal to begin with.
Mhm.
If you're splitting off with your children like that, who are adults, or your children are splitting off from you. Um, a lot of people tend to think that it's the parents' fault and
Mhm.
that they're to blame for it,
Mhm.
when it's actually not a one side or the other.
Mhm.
It's both sides that are in the wrong,
Mhm.
that need to have
Mhm.
it looked at. And another myth was that there's just no hope that it'll ever be
Mhm.
reconciled and
Mhm.
things get
Mhm.
kind of put back
Mhm.
together. It's just, that's wrong. There's always hope.
Mhm.
I'm like, well,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm a strong believer in that.
Mhm.
Um, Another myth is when people will say to someone, well, time heals all wounds.
Mhm.
Just let it go for a while and see. It's like, yeah,
Mhm.
no, not
Mhm.
necessarily. It depends there
Mhm.
again on
Mhm.
where did the hurt stem from,
Mhm.
what caused it
Mhm.
on either side,
Mhm.
to make that split. And that's what I got from that one little video you sent me. There was a bunch of
Mhm.
others on there that a couple
Mhm.
of them I got to kind of skim them,
Mhm.
but not sit and take notes like I did with the
Mhm.
first one.
Well,
I actually
this
did my
was
homework today. I took notes on it.
I'm proud of you, Sherry.
Isaac
You was
sends me
this
stuff for each one of our topics every 2 weeks. The day before, he'll send
yeah.
me an email with, here's some links, and here's some PDF files, and here's some of this, and here's some of that. I don't have to stop and look anything up. He's already sent it to me. I just sit and read everything. So,
Uh-huh.
um,
Sherry,
and sometimes I don't even have time to do that.
look in the comments at astrological tarot.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
that's a good comment because this that say for instance, if you're in a relationship with someone who's harmed you in some way, I I think it's best to detach if that
yeah,
person cannot acknowledge that they harmed you. But this is what I would say. You can detach, but you can go on and be happy, but realize that this is why I detached from this person. Because I think if I would like to believe if somebody said that I harmed them and they can tell me how I did it, that I would apologize for it. That's when the healing would
I
start.
know Michelle's background because we've talked about it, but I'm
Hmm.
not gonna say anything because it's not my place. If she
Right.
wants to share it on here,
Hmm.
then it'll come from her. But
Hmm.
um yeah, I was when you know the whole backstory of everything
Hmm.
going on,
Hmm.
it's amazing that the parents weren't jailed
Well,
for what they did,
that happens sometimes.
and
That happens
yeah,
sometimes with people. And even in relationships, if a person is feeling like they're being abused verbally, emotionally, we talk about three types of contact: uh, uh, minimal contact, or maybe some type of partial contact. If there's something in between, like a child or property, and you go all the way to no contact, because why would you need to contact someone who's hurting you and can't acknowledge you as an individual? Now, there's
yeah,
some people who feel like their kids are estranged because the young person does not contact them. And I have a friend like that, and he says his daughter is this and that, the other. But I think it's just because some young people, that's what they do. Their focus is on themselves. So, and you have to
yeah,
let them have that. And they'll usually they'll come back around. But it's like my thing is, what do you do in the meantime? You can wait,
yeah.
or you can take care of yourself.
Right.
That's what I totally believe. I believe in taking care of yourself. If at this
Exactly. You
point
have
in
to
my
do
life,
what's right for you. You have to
right, right,
um you can't put your life in a closet somewhere and shut the door and pretend like it
mhm,
doesn't exist because of
mhm,
that. It's
mhm,
um but I mean, for me it's hard for me to on a personal level grasp that concept because I was so close to my mother.
mhm,
I mean, we fought when I was a
mhm,
teenager
mhm,
because I was a teenager. We fought like cats and dogs, but it never went beyond
mhm,
just that normal teen years when you think you know everything and you don't. It's not until you get in your 20s that you realize mama knows a hell of a lot more than I do. I should shut up and listen.
mhm,
Um, but and I have friends who some have really good relationships with their kids and
mhm,
some do not.
mhm, mhm,
Um, and it's always painful to me when I see people who do not have
mhm,
that nourishing kind of relationship with their parents and or
mhm,
with their children, depending on which side you're looking at it from.
mhm,
Um, because I know some people that have done, you would think everything right, raising their kids,
mhm.
bent over backwards for their kids, and then the kids grow up to be these really spoiled, self-centered people that just nothing's good enough for them, and
Mhm.
every little grievance, well, it's mom and dad's fault because they didn't buy me this or take me there or whatever. It's like it's and as a counselor, that's where you would have to figure out what is an extreme reaction and what is
Mhm.
a normal reaction for something and for them to work it out, right? I
Mhm.
mean,
Uh-huh.
there needs to be um compromise of some sort if it's not on an extreme level.
Mhm.
Um, but
Mm. I've known people
oh, hi, Fatima. I hadn't seen you in a while.
I've known people who are, um, maybe, like, they have a parent and they don't feel close to their parent, and they just, that's something they desire, and they say that they'll share that with people. "I'm not close to my mother, I'm not close to my father." And then there are people, adult people who say, "My mother's just too involved. She goes and buys groceries and brings them to my house. She's always hovering around me. I can't stand it." You just gotta figure out where you are and work from there.
Yeah. I mean,
You cannot hope or wish somebody to be different. You have to take care of yourself and ask yourself, what do I need to learn in this situation? It may be setting boundaries. It may be
yeah.
accepting that this person is not an affectionate person. Whatever it is, we just need to, if we can learn it, we get to move on. If not, we get to hope and wish for the rest of our lives.
Well, and as we were talking about backstage with hate,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, how there is something chemically, biologically, whatever wrong
Mm-hmm.
with people's brains that hate on the level like of what we're seeing now, or in some cases
Mm-hmm.
within families who
Mm-hmm.
who hate their children or their children hate their parents at that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost sociopathic.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the extreme, and it's like it's I mean, and I know it happens and I understand why it happened. Well, I don't really understand, but I get the concept of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, how can you give birth to a child, bring a child into this world, and then hate it so much that you abuse and harm them?
Yeah.
It's like that's not normal, in my mind, in my book. That's not normal.
Mhm.
And of course, you have like today, we have all these people that seem to be getting off on the concept of hating and hurting total strangers that they don't even know.
Mhm.
It's like,
Mhm.
what did they ever do to you that you hate them to that level? So, um, and that's kind of an outside, but it can also bleed over into the
Mhm.
family.
Mhm.
Um, there's been a lot of videos, especially after who got elected president. There
Mhm.
was a lot of videos up on TikTok and
Mhm.
YouTube and whatnot
Mhm.
of people not understanding why their
Mhm.
family cut them off because they voted for
Mhm.
this man.
Mhm.
And it's like they just couldn't grasp the concept of
Mhm.
why their their gay brother or sister would be mad because
Mhm.
they voted for that, or
Mhm.
if it's a mixed race family,
Mhm.
why those other family members would feel so betrayed by that.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm. Well,
and
Sherry,
so, yeah, it's not
it's
just in the family, outside sources can affect it as well.
it's not one thing too, and in some of those cases, it's not just someone saying that, "Oh, I believe in his policies and uh, I I wanted I think that this is gonna be helpful to me." Most of those people say, "Oh, yeah, they're gonna get it now." It's almost like they want something to happen to people.
Yeah.
So it's not just the people don't, walk away or detach simply because the person is voting their beliefs. Usually the person has sort of an attitude behind it. I was talking to someone the other day, and they started saying, "What do you have you heard they're gonna send all those people to Gitmo?" And I'm like, "Why would that word even come out of your mouth?" And this
Why
is
does it make you happy?
right. But you know one thing? That's the whole point. It's
Yeah.
not it's the inflections, it's the way the word flows from your lips, it's the way the look you have on your face, it's an energy flow that I know I want something to happen to these people, but you don't even know the people.
Yes, like, what did
That's
they ever do to you?
that's why I think it's going to be diagnosed as a mental disorder
Yeah.
at some point.
Um, I was talking to someone I just met yesterday, um, an insurance agent that had stopped by to clarify some
Mhm,
information for me. And it was actually the agent who had stopped by a couple of weeks ago. It was actually his boss that came by to like follow up.
mhm,
And at one point, I don't remember now what exactly we were talking about, but I said something. Well, no, when I'm not at work, I'm at home. I run a YouTube channel. I'm usually online. And he was like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I told him, I read tarot and oracle cards and blah blah
mhm,
blah." And a few minutes goes by, and he finishes out the question that he was asking me. And then he started smiling. He says, "Boy," he says, "you and my mother would get along great." He says, "'Cause she loves that stuff." And I said, "Yeah, it's a real passion for me." And he said, "I could tell." He said, "The minute you said it, your whole face lit up." He
right.
said, "I could see it, the
Mhm,
difference that it makes for you than just talking about
mhm,
normal stuff."
mhm.
And so I could kick myself because I didn't have any business cards in my pocket. I got it slipped on my card. Bring this to your
Right.
mom.
Mhm,
But it's little things like that. I mean, some people, if I tell them what I do as my hobby, especially because I live in an area that's predominantly Catholic,
mhm,
um, and very conservative religiously,
mhm.
um, some people take that step back. They're like, "Oh, that's
Mhm.
of the devil." And other
Uh-huh.
people are like, "Oh, how interesting. I bet you meet
Right.
all kinds of neat people."
Right.
So it depends on the openness of their mind, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've been backing up trying to read some of what was in chat. There's been some
Me too.
interesting
Mhm.
conversations going on here. And it's hard to deal with a lot of this stuff.
Mhm.
Even years later, it still hangs on. I mean, that's
Mhm.
why I pinned a message at the top of the chat before the show that if we start talking about a particular topic that triggers you, click off and go talk to your medical practitioner, because I sure don't want to cause anybody to have like
Uh-huh.
a freak out or something. That's
Mhm.
why I started running a content warning at the end of the little intro video,
Mhm.
just so people say, okay, we might be touching on some touchy topics here, so
Right.
be aware
Yeah.
so that if it's upsetting you,
Mhm.
click off, go watch
Mhm.
something else. And I'm
Mhm.
not going to hold it against you because
Mhm.
that's just the way
Mhm.
things are. High hypnicity and innocent potato. Oh, we had some more people jump in here. And, dialogue is very important.
Mhm. That's the most important thing because you don't know what's motivating a person, why
Yeah,
they are the way they are. You just so you have to ask, you have to check it out. Uh, you may ask some people, why did you never hug me as a child? Well, and some people they may, if they would give an honest answer, it may be like, okay, my parents were never affectionate, so I just didn't know how to do that. But some people
yeah,
will say something like, they'll make a joke out of it, and so it's like you never get to the bottom of it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you got to figure out where a person is coming from if they will tell you.
exactly. Exactly. If they will tell you, or
Mhm.
if they're honest in the telling,
Uh-huh. Right.
uh, it's, it's, I mean, I've had friends who were in probably fairly rocky relationships with their parents who then went off and married somebody that would abuse them.
Mhm.
And it'd be like, why are you repeating this pattern? You recognize the signs of an abuser because you grew up with it.
Mhm.
Why would you pick somebody to spend time with that's going to treat you the same way? It's kind of like growing up with an alcoholic and then you marry an alcoholic. It's like, well,
Mhm.
you know what the signs and symptoms are. Why are you drawn to that which you hated or despised or are afraid of or whatever adjective you want to throw in there?
Mhm.
Um, take it
It
away. I'll let you
it
finish that part.
okay, it depends on the individual. It depends on the
Right.
individual. Some people go into relationships like that, uh, una with unawareness. It just feels comfortable. This feels right. If you put, if you put them in a group and there was one person who was that, abuser, they would gravitate to the abuser because it feels comfortable. There are some people who not would be so hyper vigilant. If the person did anything that resembles something that was abusive, they would like go off on them. They wouldn't let them near them. It just depends on the person and their personality and what level of awareness they have. And when I say awareness, I mean not that they mm, a better word would probably be what level of consciousness they have or
Yeah.
awareness about themselves. Because what I would tell people is if like some people they leave a relationship and go into another relationship and they're afraid because they don't want to get in the same relationship. And my statement is you may not know what you want, but you know what you don't want. So if this person starts to do things and you say to yourself, "Oh, my ex used to do that." that's a red that's a red flag, because
Yeah.
you're seeing it unconsciously, you're seeing it, but you're not putting words to it.
Right.
So you can work
Exactly.
backward. You can it's all sorts of ways to take care of
To deal
yourself.
with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, anything from extreme abuse to
Hmm.
uh, emotional detachment,
Hmm.
uh, just just the way that the individual deals with other people.
Hmm. Hmm.
Some people can't stand children because kids are kids. They're going to do stupid things and they're going to ask
Hmm.
you a ton of questions over and over and
Hmm.
over and over again until you're ready to scream. And they demand a lot of your time. They're
Hmm.
children, that's just the way their brains work. And so getting an adult to understand that sometimes can be really difficult. And therefore, they take it out on the kids, or they're in a bad situation with a spouse or their
Hmm.
family. They
Yeah.
take it out on the kids. And then
Hmm.
you grow up, your kids are grown, and suddenly you're like, well, my kids never visit
Yeah.
me. They never call me. They never want to have anything to do with me. Well,
Hmm.
why is that? Again, like you were saying, you got to go backwards to figure out
Hmm.
where that first break came from and why each person is the way they are.
Hmm.
Um, um,
You,
Kimberly hit it on the head. She said, compassion, empathy, and being a good listener is important. Yeah.
yes. One thing too, Sherry, as you were talking, I started writing because I thought about Abraham Hicks, and I try to tell people that I work with to pay attention to their emotions, so that their emotions are not like sort of like dragging them around, like, because what the reason why we respond to our emotions, and like for instance, fear, and we have a certain thing that we do and we fear, we may isolate, we may uh lash out. If we're aware of our emotions, we get to control, not to control them, but they don't have the same charge, because it's like it sends a charge of energy through our bodies, and we're responding in the same way over and over, and we think that people are doing things to us, which they are, they're being themselves, and we're responding to it. But if you remember, if you've ever heard Abraham Hicks, she says, like, if a person says, I'm never speaking to you again, you can ask the questions, and then you can say, okay, well, I'm gonna go on. If it's somebody that you're attached to and you want them to speak to you again, you do things, you fall out, you cry, whatever. But she said, if someone called you up that you didn't know on the phone, have you heard that one? And she says, and the person says, I'm just calling to let you know that I'm never going to speak to you again. And she says, all righty then. But it's about the way the feelings go through your body. It's the
Yeah.
attachments that we have. Oh, this is
And the
my,
rejection that you feel.
but we create that
Yeah.
in our own mind by saying, by viewing other people in life, and this happened to her and her family, and it was terrible, and so we start adding all the sadness and everything to it. So if something similar happens to us, the brain says, oh, you need to do this, and we just automatically do it. Or I think a better way would be doing it would say, oh, this is what happened to me, this is what I would rather do, this is what I will choose to do. Because when the emotions are involved, we don't choose, it just kicks in. We're on automatic pilot.
Yeah.
But it's about feeling what
Exactly.
you feel and letting it go.
I mean, there there's there is so much, I guess, volatility that can happen
Mm-hmm.
among especially relatives that you know, siblings, parents, whatever you grow up with.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can let some of those barriers down and
Mm-hmm.
be closer to yourself when you're with people that
Mm-hmm.
you've grown up with
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, if a stranger calls you up and says, I'm never going to talk to you again, you're like, okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Click and hang up the phone.
Right.
You might have a reaction to it, but it's not going to haunt you
Right.
the
Uh-huh.
way it would if your parent or your sibling or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, your child calls you up and says, I'm just want to let you know I'm never going to speak to you again.
Uh-huh.
You know, especially if you're not
Right.
aware that there's a
Mm-hmm.
problem to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Right.
see that a lot with some adults, both sides from the child and or from the
Mm-hmm.
parent,
Mm-hmm.
of being like clueless. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what the issue is.
Mm-hmm.
Why? You know,
Mm-hmm.
they don't get it. And I think
Yeah.
again that's where family counseling comes in to,
Mm-hmm. Well, Sherry, if
because
that happens, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
If that happens, you go into the who, what, when, where, how. What's going on. You start to check
Yeah.
it out, and if it doesn't, if it if it does not, mm, if it's not based in reality, you might have to say this person may have a mental break. You don't know what's going on with people, you
Yeah.
know. And when we think of family, we've been socialized to believe that it's supposed to happen in a certain way, and it's supposed to uh, follow a certain timeline, and all of these different things are supposed to happen that are wonderful, which is usually not the case. It's
Yeah.
about us learning to negotiate difficult situations or learning to negotiate any situation. It's a big part of it is self-awareness, learning, and really not being afraid to just be present in the world. Well, we don't have to be angry with someone if we don't like them. We can sort of detach. We can move away from them. We can not have a lot of interaction with them. If
Yeah.
it's somebody that you know that seems that they are distant from us, if it matters to us, we can ask them, or if we pass them in the hallway or on the street, we can start checking out our phone. But you can do things in so many ways without lashing out at another human being because you
Yeah.
don't know what's going on with people.
Exactly. And you look at the damage that is done, especially to so many young people from anonymous sources, even if they think they know them
Mhm.
online.
Mhm.
And you get the online, the cyberbullying and stuff that
Mhm.
can,
Mhm.
I mean, how
Yeah.
many suicides have occurred with teenagers because for whatever reason, somebody
Mhm.
in their peers has decided to single them out and that's who we're going to
Mhm.
bully. And,
Mhm.
um, and you get a lot of these kids that they can't deal with that. You know,
Mhm.
everything is wrapped up in their social media.
Mhm.
I look at it today and I'm like, oh, thank God it didn't exist when I was that age. I mean,
Mhm.
I'd still be in therapy to this day. I would have been a flippin' mess, you know, because I did a lot of stupid stuff as a kid. I mean, but that's part of childhood is you do stupid stuff and then you learn from it, hopefully. Um, eh, I was going to
Yeah.
say something and it went out my brain, so I don't remember now what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't you I think you would have to ask, why would I would have to ask the question, why would I harm myself if I was bullied on social media? And is it because I want people to like me? Is it because it's something that they know about me that they're trying to harm me with? There's just so many avenues that we have to explore, because there's more, I guess, in the social media world, there's more people who can say, "Oh, I don't like you. I don't like you." You know, what if you could go through the world and did not even, you were not fazed by someone saying, "I don't like you"? Think how empowered you would be if you were okay with them not liking you, but you did not try to do anything to cause them to like you. But you focused on yourself,
Right.
because whatever you focus on grows. If I'm focusing on the people outside of me, they are growing. But if I focus on me, I grow. And it's not something that you can just say that you're going to do today and start doing tomorrow. It's a practice. You got to bring yourself back to it and remind yourself that there are things that are more important than if somebody likes my outfit, or if somebody is poking fun at me. You can remove yourself from that person. And another tip would be if that person knew other people and say, "Oh, Sherry, do you know what they were saying about you?" The first question should be, for me, is going to be, "Was it good or bad?" They go, "Oh, they were saying some stuff that it wasn't good." I would say, "Don't tell me."
Yeah, I don't want to know.
They would freeze in their tracks, because they're not telling you to help you. They're telling you
No.
to see your reaction, and so that they
Yeah.
can go back and share. So you said, "Don't tell me, I don't wanna know, you keep it." And you lock it up inside them, they will either have a meltdown, or they will stop talking to you, because they're not
Yeah.
talking to you to build you up, they're talking to you to tear you down.
Right. 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 And that
Mhm.
happens a lot, especially with our young people today, because
Mhm.
they're so wrapped up in social media.
Mhm.
Everything is wrapped around social media and their
Mhm.
phones and their computers, and which there's good in that, but there's also bad in that.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, there's nothing to me more depressing than seeing a table full of young people, especially girls,
Mhm.
that are sitting at a table and they're all on their phones talking to each other
Mhm.
on the phone. They're sitting at the same table together instead of putting the phone down and looking at each other and having a conversation. It's like that concept is foreign to them or something. It is everything has to go through that anonymous thing in their hand, that helps them be one step removed
Mhm.
from whatever damage they may cause. Because then let's say you're bullying somebody and they do something by retaliating on themselves.
Mhm.
So the person that's doing the bullying, that's going to depend on how their mental health is going to depend on how they react to the fact that
Mhm.
they drove a person to self harm.
Mhm.
Um, do they get a kick out of it?
Mhm.
Does it upset them that, oh, wow, I took this too far?
Mhm.
Or somewhere in between,
Mhm.
it's that's just, and I guess because I'm around, well, like you, I'm around college students all the time.
Mhm.
And they're constantly on their phones. I mean, I see the foreign kids, the foreign nationals that come over. Being in computer science, we have a lot of kids from the Middle East, from India, from China, um, and they get in groups and they're talking to each other, talking face to face. They're not talking
Mhm.
on the phone.
Mhm.
Then I look at American kids, and they'll all be sitting together, and everybody's on the phone. They don't even look at each other. They're just on the phone. And it's like, well, you can't like look up and speak to them. Would that be that difficult to do? And for some kids it is.
Mhm.
They're so
Yeah.
used to that third wall being between them and another person
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
they can't function when you take that third wall away.
Mm-hmm.
And complete meltdown. You take away their phone. Oh my God! You think you just cut off their arm. And in some respects, you have, because
Mm-hmm.
that's, for instance, El Presidente in the White House
Uh-huh.
has temper tantrums on Twitter or X or whatever the hell they call it, or True Social. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the one he does.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's like, well, who are you fussing about? Because there's no people around you, because nobody wants to be around you, because you
Mm-hmm.
suck. Um, for entertainment purposes only, YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to YouTube jail. Um, but it's like, because something doesn't go your way, you're going to go online and have a complete meltdown. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen these young kids do it at school,
Mm-hmm.
just lose their shit completely because something that somebody posted or said or videotaped or whatever about them
Mm-hmm.
that just sends them off,
Mm-hmm.
just like they go off like a rocket on it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, it's just a tweet, big deal, It's, but to them it is. I mean, look, when they thought they were taking away TikTok, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, the amount of people I saw doing videos about, I'm going to lose all my friends and I'm going to, I won't be able to communicate with anybody. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're sitting across the table from each other. Why can't you communicate? Why you have to go through TikTok to talk to your friend that's sitting in the same room with you? That doesn't make sense. But I mean, the rules are changing,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Things are changing.
And I mean, we have leadership positions, people in leadership positions that are literally running things to get revenge on people that hurt their feelings. And it's like, okay, how childish is that? That the first
Mm-hmm.
thing you want to do is hurt a group of people because somebody in that group made fun of you. It's staggers my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess if you're 4 or 5 years old, I can get it because you're
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 years old, and so,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something I heard somebody say about the president was, notice that word doesn't want to come out of my mouth. Um, where I heard somebody, one of the pundits, talking about, well, it's like he's been emotionally and mentally stunted since he was a young kid
Mm-hmm.
when his mother like tripped out and they had to put her in the hospital and then put her
Mm-hmm.
in like hospice type care or whatnot. I mean, even
Mm-hmm.
though that didn't exist back then, but something similar in the sanatorium. They sent him off to the loony bin, as they would call it.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally stopped his growth as a human being. It's like he's still stuck at that age, the way
Mm-hmm.
he reacts to things,
Mm-hmm.
what he does. And so I see it on him, and then I look around the world and I'm seeing it on so many other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, just how many people are running around that are stuck in that age
Mm-hmm.
level and that emotional
Mm-hmm.
level,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't let go so that they can continue to grow up and move on with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just my own observation. So I may be completely off base, but that's just what I see and how I interpret it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Norm. Um, Hi, Nikki. Nikki, that's a really good point you just made. You would think that a bully would feel regret for being a bully and therefore feel
Mhm.
really bad for how they treated someone.
Mhm.
But yet, look how many adult bullies there are
Yeah.
that seem to thrive on it. It's kind of scary. It's
Mm.
like we got a bunch of demented people in this world today. It's like, hmm, who's abnormal, me or them? Um, yes, innocent potatoes, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names can never hurt me. And that is so opposite the truth. Because you could throw sticks and stones at me and it's fine, I'll fight you back when I was a kid, but you
Uh-huh.
start calling me names and bullying me in that
Mhm.
way, and it's devastating for young people, for especially children, to
Yeah.
get beyond that.
Mhm.
And with a lot of people that's our age and a little older, we grew up in a completely different world than what young people are growing up in today. I mean,
Mhm. Yep.
social
Everything's
media, that would have been what, the newspaper,
Mhm.
that would have been the extent of your social media, or
Mhm.
um, maybe the school newspaper if your school had a journalism department and put out a newspaper. It's just the kids today grow up. They grow up so differently. It's like there's a callousness to them. Now is that because we've spent years of having them do active shooter drills? So they expect to
Wow.
die at any moment, whereas kids in our generation,
You
yeah,
might
we
have
hid under the desk because somebody was going to drop a bomb on us, like that desk was going to protect our ass, right?
that is
Um, but it wasn't. It was like something you did once or twice a year just to practice so you knew what to do.
Mhm.
But it wasn't like something that you focused on. And it certainly didn't happen on a regular basis. We didn't have people
Mhm.
dropping bombs on high schools or junior high schools growing
Yeah.
up,
You've got something there.
but now you've got 4 and 5 year olds who are learning how to do, they're learning how to make um, frontline battle bandaging for bullet wounds.
Really?
You got kids, 5 year olds, that are learning how to triage being shot.
Wow.
And it's like the first time I read that blew me away. It was like,
Mhm.
okay, so you've got our kids that are growing up with this and they're being talked to and treated like this is normal when
Mhm.
it's not.
Right.
So how does that affect them as adults when things don't go their way and they cut off that contact with mom and
Yeah.
dad because
Mhm.
they made them mad because they didn't give in to them, or
Mhm.
they cut off talking with a sibling because they may have different points of view on something. It's really kind of sad society wise. I mean, it's like,
Mhm.
how sad is that that's our response to people? That's kind of depressing, I guess you could
Mhm.
say.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm
Yeah.
just sitting here pontificating. So, um, and Isaac just sits back.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Get it out.
I think when we start to learn to take care of ourselves, because I think we've depended on maybe like, people in authority, politicians, for so long, and they started, well, they don't deliver. When we can be more involved in our own lives, we won't wait for somebody to do something kind for us. We'll take care of ourselves, and we'll be in a much better mental state to discuss things with people like, gun control and things like that. Because some people don't, because they got so many other things going on. It's like, okay, I don't need to get involved in that and stuff like that. But I think it's about self-care. I really do.
hmm And it kind of starts with you when it comes to you.
Mhm.
You got to do that self care in order.
Mhm. Yeah. Because people
In
do what
yeah,
people do what they see and not what they do. And like you were discussing, like the children. Uh, if a child saw that an adult was did not get flustered by things that other people did, and that they had ways that they took care of themselves, that child would do that as well. But the social media, it's not going to go away. It's like
no,
people got to figure out how to use it.
exactly, and how to let their children grow up with it without it completely taking over their lives.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. Remember, there was a time when like electricity wasn't safe in homes. Actually, there was a time when like fireplaces were not safe in homes, and so we figured it out. So
yeah,
we'll figure it out.
slowly but surely, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I know. I'm reading this stuff in the chat. It's
Me too.
really interesting today. It's
Mhm.
like, wow, y'all are having some really good conversations. I'm gonna have to go back after the show and like reread
Yeah,
from the
that's
beginning.
what I'm doing. I'm
Um,
reading the
um,
comments.
but there's so many things that happen in childhood that create why we behave the way we behave in adulthood,
Mhm.
and that can truly hurt one another.
Mhm.
And like you said, you got to go back and figure out where that hurt started. Where did it come from?
Mhm. Yep. Some people have a hard time doing that. And to be honest with you, in order to start living well, you really don't have to look back. You just have to make up your mind. It helps a lot of people though when they look back and they say, "Oh, this is where this came from. I can change it." But when if you decide to live better, it's just about, how do I take care of myself? And how am I going to behave in different situations? How am I going to interact socially? And that's when we start to grow, when we start to pay attention to it, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, well, we've been at this an hour, and I'm out of things to say.
Okay.
Unless there's more you want to talk about.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was just interested. This subject was very interesting.
Yeah, it's I learned a lot just in the few little things that you sent
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
I was like, wow, I never so many of like the myths that she mentioned,
Right.
I thought that was fact and find out it's not. It's like,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Um Hmm.
Take
Well,
care,
I want to
Vivian.
thank everybody for coming, and I hate to kind of stop your conversations because they're really interesting, but
Yeah, yeah.
um, we can certainly take this up another time. For sure. We didn't have a topic for next time. We come back on the 23rd.
Okay.
Um, so if there's a particular thing y'all would like us to cover on the next show, kindly stick it in the chat real quick and we can write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jonathan, what I learned from my mom, who single parent who raised two kids on her own, was that being a mom is hard work and it never ends. Because even after my brother and I were grown, she still made a point of taking care of us, making sure that everything was okay and that we didn't
Mm-hmm.
need anything. Um, and she was always there for us. I was very, very fortunate in that. Um, and in a lot of respects, it taught me independence. I didn't, and I'm a child of the '60s, so I grew up with certain stereotypes in my brain, from just the norm of the time. My mother taught me I didn't have to go marry a man to take care of me. That I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. And I think a lot of young girls that grew up when I did, that was still part of the brainwashing of it, where you finish high school and then you start husband shopping if you haven't already picked one out already, and you get married, you have 2.5 kids, and you live happily ever after, which rarely ever happens. But my mom was like, showed a different side of that you can be whatever you want to be. You can study whatever you want to. She always told us later on, she told my brother and I both that her greatest accomplishment was that both her kids got a college degree and she never even finished high school.
Mm.
And yet she managed to raise us on her own and provide decent shelter and food. Now, granted, sometimes it was rice and beans, and that's all the hell we had to eat. But at least we had something to eat. Um, and she never physically or emotionally abused us. Although, if you made her mad enough, it could kind of mess with your head a little bit. She would do or say things, that make you step back and go, "Oh, I went too far. I better back up a minute." Um, but she was a very independent person. She tried to get married, have kids, live happily ever after nonsense, and it didn't work.
Mm.
Drastically didn't work. And she was like, washed her hands of it. She's like, "Yeah, okay, no thanks. Been there, done that. Don't want to try that again." And she stayed single her whole life. I mean, um, after she divorced my brother's dad, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that was it. She had boyfriends, she dated and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
she never brought them around us. We never really saw them or
Mm-hmm.
got to know them unless it moved into a more longer term relationship. There were a few, but
Mm-hmm.
um, that we would get to know. But yeah, it was always us three. That's the way she put it. Three
Mm-hmm.
Musketeers. We got it.
Mm-hmm.
And And so that's how we grew up. And when I first got married, I was 22 when I got married. And when I told her we were getting married first day, she was like, "Where did I fail?" Like, "No, Mom, you didn't fail. I want to get married, not to have somebody take care of me, but because I love that person." And but that was just one of the things that she worried about, and she was very proud of the fact that my brother and I both got a college education and went on to live our lives and whatnot, and do things that we were passionate about doing. And so I was very lucky in that respect. But she was just not interested in going back into that kind of relationship again. She was like, "Yeah, no, been there, done that." Bought the t-shirt. Thank you anyway. And yeah, she stressed innocent potato. That's right. My mother stressed education. As long as you use your brain, you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And she was quite adamant about that. She pretty much was the black sheep of the family. She was the real progressive liberal in the family. She marching for civil rights, marching for women's rights, marching for ERA, equal rights. And
that's cool.
I did a lot of that stuff with her when I was a kid. And I'm like, now I'm in my 60s. I'm having to do this shit all over again.
At least you had some guidance.
It's like, okay, I gotta know what to expect, but still. But yeah, I mean, she took care of us, and she did her thing and we did ours, but we all did things together at the same time. What are you laughing at?
Oh, I think that's so funny. Innocent potato.
Oh, Gloria Steinem.
Yeah, read it.
A woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
hey.
well, and also back in those times, if Queen Elizabeth I had married, then she would have lost her kingdom and her husband would become the king.
Wow.
Because those were the societal norms at that time. Women could not be a leader, run a country, be the queen, whatever, if there was a man involved. And so that was another reason why she never got married, was because it wasn't, she wasn't going to give up her power or her throne. It was like, that's mine. And you look at Queen Elizabeth II, and even though she was already married when she, because her father died, stepped into being queen, that came first. And her husband was never given any kingly rights. He stayed a prince the entire time. They were 70 some odd years they stayed married. He was always Prince Philip. He never, there was no King Philip. No, she did not share her power. And it was her responsibility and hers alone, and that's how she saw it. And it's like, I mean, I don't know that much about the British monarchy or anything, just odd facts that I've stuck in my brain over the years. But to me, she was always a real role model, as someone who This is my responsibility. This is what I'm expected to do, and I will do it
Yeah.
my entire life. And she
Yeah.
didn't pawn it off on anybody else all the way up to her last breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to give it to the woman. I mean,
You really do.
she didn't put up with no BS from anybody either, man. I mean,
You really do. You got to give it to her. She did.
um,
She was a person who did what she signed up to do. Well, she didn't
yeah.
sign up to do it. She had to do it, and she did it.
Well, she could have abdicated. She could have let her
But
sister take it, or
yeah, but she did it.
she could have caved that power over to her husband,
Mm-hmm.
but no, that was
Mm-hmm.
her role and her
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. And I always greatly admired her because of that. It's
Me
like,
too. Me too.
that takes a lot of
Integrity.
self-confidence and integrity.
Integrity.
It's
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
always have to put your relationships, your family second,
Mm-hmm.
because you're in charge of a realm,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and even though she didn't have technically the political power a queen
Mm-hmm.
used to have, because
Mm-hmm.
now they're run by a parliament, which I don't really understand how that works either. But
Mm-hmm.
she was quite strict about what could and couldn't be done within the family,
Mm-hmm.
and they all marched to her tune.
Mm-hmm.
She was the leader.
Mm-hmm.
You marched to her tune, or you were out. 3 strikes, you're out. And she commanded a lot of respect, but people, I think, gave it to her willingly because
Mm-hmm.
they did see the sacrifice that she made. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and that's really about all I really know about her, the woman.
Mm-hmm.
I just had this pop up on my news feed. President Trump signs proclamation regarding Gulf of America Day.
Wow. Did you hear the thing that Amy Klobuchar said?
No, I didn't hear that.
What is the difference between Greenland and 47? Greenland is not for sale. And then
Ding,
she
ding, ding,
said,
ding, ding.
I suppose some of my Republican colleagues want to throw eggs at me, but they can't. They're too expensive. It was funny. I thought that was funny.
Oh, yeah. There, some of the longer termed Democrats are finally starting to learn from the younger ones coming in,
Yeah.
but don't put up with the BS. Just call it out, get in their face about
Right.
it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's really kind of nice to see it happen.
Mm-hmm.
14 children, Jonathan. Oh my God.
Mm.
My late husband, he was the baby out of 7.
Wow.
And there were a few miscarriages throughout the groupings of kids. So there's no telling how many children that his mother actually had.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, today, if you have 2 kids, people look at you like you're trying to take too much from everybody. It's like, well, figure if you can afford it, go for it. But
Yeah.
you got to be rich to have kids. So
Mm-hmm.
it's expensive. You have what, 1 son?
Yes.
Yeah. Like me. So
Mm-hmm.
1 was enough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm out of words. I'm out of things to say. I said that earlier, but we
Okay.
kept on going
Okay.
because I like hanging out with everybody. That's why.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. I'm gonna cut you loose now because I really got to go to the bathroom. That's usually what does me in when it gets to the point where it's like I gotta go now.
Yeah.
Y'all have a great week. Isaac and I will be back on the 23rd.
Yeah.
And are there any topics y'all want us to tackle next time? I mean, if not, we'll rack our brains and try to come up with something, but
Yeah.
or maybe recycle some of the stuff
Mhm.
we covered in the beginning when we first started this journey almost a year and a half ago is what,
Yeah.
not quite that long, but almost. All right. Y'all have a great evening. Have a good week.
Yes.
Don't let go of your hope and hang
Yep.
tough. We're going to get through it.
Yep. We
We're all
will.
going to get through it all together.
Yep.
So, all right.